Welcome back to OpenLine. We are talking about the soccer stadium tonight, where it stands and where we go moving forward. Will we have a soccer stadium or not? And we are getting calls, and I encourage you to call in 615-737+. Two gentlemen here who are knee-deep in this issue right now, Colby Sledge, the district council member, and Caleb Hemmer from the Nashville Fairgrounds board. So here we go. Let's get back to the lines. Leslie, you are up. Thank you for calling in tonight. Go ahead. Leslie, turn down that TV and just talk into your phone, and we'll be able to hear you better.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. Hey, I noticed everybody's talking about the races and stuff, and
I think he's turned down his TV right now. Okay, Leslie, go ahead. We can hear you.
can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
All right. I know everybody was talking about the racing at Nashville. I used to race there, and I still do if one of y'all have it. But everybody talking about putting a soccer stadium in and not supporting all that. But I don't understand why nobody wants to support the races. Some people says it's a nuisance. And I don't understand why it's a nuisance when nobody else would help fix the track up and stuff. And, you know, I mean, it's just ridiculous. They want to knock out the races when NASCAR said they'll probably come, you know.
All right, Leslie, thank you. Go ahead. Do you have a specific question or just really, you know, want to support the racing?
I support the races and stuff, and I don't know why. Like I said, I mean, everybody calls it a nuisance.
Well, we had Derek call in earlier, and he lives around the area, and he just said, you know, the noise is a nuisance. I think that was his main concern. But of course, you know, you have the race fans like Leslie who say, come on, this is our pastime, this is what we do, we love being out there. Do you see a bright future for racing realistically at the fairgrounds?
Like I said, we're very excited about racing this year. We got a new operator, a lot of interest from the drivers. We had over 200 drivers show up at the operators' new meeting a few weeks ago. So, you know, I think it's also important for Leslie and other viewers and racing supporters to know that there's nothing in the soccer deal that's prohibiting racing or even preventing racing. I mean, we really view this whole project as a rising tide lifts all boats, and we want to see racing be just as prosperous as soccer. The Fair Board's actually put in a lot of new improvements, lighting, painting, did a lot of work to the grandstands over the past year, but you know, the bottom line, it's not the Fair Board that supports the racing and ultimately makes it successful. It's the drivers as well as, most importantly, the fans that show up. And unfortunately, we've had a just not a lot of interest in the community for racing. I don't think you're just seeing that locally. It's nationally. There's a lot of you know, it seemed like decrease in revenue and viewership for races. You know, we've seen the Wilson County racetrack close here over the last year. So we want to do everything we can as a city and a Fair Board to ensure racing is successful, but you know, we only can be responsible for so much.
If NASCAR were, I'm sorry, I'm writing down a name right now. If NASCAR were to come in, what will have to happen to that track to make that a feasible option?
It's going to take a lot of upgrades. I mean, just from a standpoint that they want to see it built as a modern facility. From what I understand, you're going to have a lot of TV type of things that need to be done. There'll be a lot of increase in the seating as well as luxury boxes. So that's my initial understanding from the limited amount of information we have. But again, much like the old expo facilities at the fairgrounds, and up until this year, there's been no significant capital investment in the fairgrounds since the middle 60s, late 60s. So it's in dire need for some upgrades if it were to be ultimately successful.
Let's go back to the lines. Linda is on the line. Linda, thank you for your patience. Go ahead with your comment or question.
Hello.
Hi, go ahead.
Oh, okay. First of all, I think they should, if they get racing, send it back to Wilson County. And also, as far as soccer, either one is going to cost Nashville money. They need to take that money and get more police officers and build new fire stations and things. There's a lot more need for that than soccer or racing.
Linda, thank you. And Colby, I'm going to send this right over to you because a lot of people will say this every time. It is, we need teachers better paid, we need police officers by more than 100, so on and so on. And yet we're talking soccer.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to be talking about the budget right now. We have 50 days until we are supposed to be receiving the budget proposal from the mayor's office. They actually moved the deadline up a month and said that we needed to pass the budget a month early. We're not having a budget conversation at all. We're having this conversation. And I totally agree. We need to be better funding our public servants, our teachers, quite frankly, every Metro employee. Yes. We had a special council committee study Metro pay, and the committee concluded that, look, if what it takes is bringing in more revenue, and I'm not going to parse words, a property tax increase, then that's what we need to look at. We should be having an in-depth conversation about that right now. And instead, we're spending time on matters that are already settled, and by the way, aren't taking funds from those very important resources.
Explain that, because many people just don't get it.
Yeah, so let me split it a couple ways. One is the revenue bonds, right, for the stadium, which we've already talked about. Those are paid back now 100% by the team.
But where does that money come from? Because I think people think it's coming out of this pot that teacher salaries are coming out of and everything.
Right, so what happens is the sports authority, because it's the sports complex, the sports authority issues those bonds. And then the team ownership group pays those bonds back. We have general infrastructure. We have infrastructure paid by general obligation bonds. Now, we do pay the debt service on those general obligation bonds. The only amount we have out there, we're doing $25 million in general infrastructure, in that infrastructure. That would need to be done no matter what. Like Caleb said, we haven't done anything out there infrastructure-wise since the 60s.
It's hard to believe, but wow.
And then what makes it even better is the team says, you got any infrastructure overruns? We're going to cover those too. So the important thing for folks to realize about why we're in the budget situation we're in is not because of the conversation we're having about soccer. It's because we haven't had the hard conversation to say, we can't run 2020 Nashville on 2008 Nashville's revenues.
Absolutely. Okay, we're really getting a lot of calls, so I want to jump back to the lines. I knew this was going to happen. It's a hot topic. All right, Mike, you are up. What is your comment or question tonight?
Okay. Thank you for letting me make a comment. One thing that I think the people of Nashville understand very clearly, and that is the taxpayers of Nashville have been given to billionaires and big corporations and anybody that would promise to bring jobs that never does. And the taxpayers of Nashville have been ripped off so much, it's unbelievable. Now we find ourselves not able to pay our bills. So what's the solution? Raise the taxes. Not curb the amount of money we're giving to billionaires, not curb the gifts to manufacturing and other businesses that won't come in here that have got their hand out and want the taxpayers of Nashville to pay for it. What we're about the business of doing is saying raise the taxes and continue to give the billionaires and the multi-million-dollar international companies millions and millions of Nashville's taxpayer dollars. It is absolutely ridiculous. And these people that want to make excuses about the racetrack or about soccer or about the stadium, football stadium, and all this other crap, they don't care about the taxpayers of Nashville. All they want is money. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Mike.
So, thanks, Mike. I appreciate the comments. And I totally understand the spirit of what you're saying. If we took away every incentive that we had to every employer that we currently have given, whether it's the per job guarantee or whether it's, we talked a lot about TIF, right? Tax increment financing, which we've functionally stopped doing, quite frankly. It wouldn't have even, I don't think it would have hit a third of the hole that we had to fill from this previous budget. So I want everybody to understand that while we should have a very strong conversation in the city about incentives and what we're getting back as taxpayers and what kind of jobs we're bringing in, if we took all that away today, it's not going to solve the issues we have about paying people what they're worth, getting our infrastructure fixed the way it should be, it's just way bigger than that one conversation.
All right. I did want to ask you about the community benefits agreement that was made with this deal to build the soccer stadium to benefit the community around. What is part of that?
Sure. Community benefits agreement is a private legal document that was put together between the team and between a group of community advocates called Stand Up Nashville. Long story short, it's got in it affordable housing guarantees. It's got a minimum wage of $15.50, I think, for those who are working on it. They've made sure that people who are working there are employees, which means they're not contracted out to temp agencies. They've got those protections. It has more, I think what the team and Stand Up Nashville says is it's $75 million worth of community benefits when you put it all together. It was something that I know was negotiated very strongly on both sides, and if they hadn't have had that agreement, I can speak fairly confidently in saying we wouldn't have had this deal in council. We wouldn't have passed it. We passed it in part because we knew that there were these community benefits that were part of this agreement.
And the mayor has said now he is working to make that part of the new deal he was working on. Is that necessary?
No, in fact, it worries me because if you put a private agreement into a public agreement, you basically offer it up for preemption by the state. There was a very specific reason why there was a private agreement between these two private parties so that they would negotiate and that they would come to terms that would not be affected by any other legislative body. We in Nashville know that there is always the threat of state preemption, and if the mayor is thinking about taking a private agreement and putting it into a public agreement, he puts the entire CBA at risk. I
would like to get y'all's opinion on, we ran a story Friday night about the lawsuit that Nashville Soccer Club has now joined with Metro, which is an odd pairing right now since they kind of are working out their own deal, against the group Save Our Fairgrounds. And the lawyer for Save Our Fairgrounds said this is a Hail Mary, this is a dumb move on part of Nashville SC. It's basically a last-ditch effort just to get in there and try to make sure that Metro doesn't just lose this lawsuit on purpose. What's your take?
I have a lot of takes. So in the most recent ruling where this lawsuit is going to be going to trial, basically the portion that's going to trial is about is the fairgrounds, after all these improvements, because the chancellor's comments assume that all these improvements will go forward because there is a deal, because there is a law, to say, is it a feasible venue for the fair, right? There's a problem there because the problem is on the fairground side. The fairgrounds can host a state fair. The problem is the state fair board has said, fairgrounds way back in 2016 said, we don't think the fairgrounds is a long-term viable avenue, a venue to go for the state fair. They were looking at Bonnaroo and decided that it was too far away. They're looking at places in Rutherford County. We, the fair board, Metro, we have no say if the state fair board wants to pick up and move that state fair somewhere else, regardless of what we do.
Yeah, I agree. And Wilson County is another place they looked, and they've said before soccer was even a glimpse in anyone's eye that the fairgrounds in Nashville was really too small, and they additionally wanted some other state investment. And so a long time ago they started down the path of looking at additional lands to do the state fair. And so and also, as Colby mentioned, the state legislation a few years ago took that out of the Metro Fair Board's responsibility, so we're kind of handcuffed to.
Gotcha. Okay, let's go back to the lines. Valere is on the line. Valere, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Good.
I just wanted to kind of talk about how all these concerns, while they are valid for the most part, these concerns have been discussed in last year. I mean, this deal is done. And then a new mayor comes in, and all right, he wants to negotiate and everything. Good for him. This is great. He made the deal even better. Great win for the city, right? Okay, so why are we still here talking about the same concerns again? Aren't we supposed to go ahead and move on with this deal? Because quite honestly, I mean, there's nothing that the mayor has said so far that makes sense. And I'm glad you brought up the community benefits agreement, because that was the reason of my call. I mean, that alone is a better deal than you got with Titans, you got with the Preds, or a lot of teams out there in America that are not getting, and a lot of cities out there in America that are not getting this type of deal. So while these concerns that I'm hearing on your show and online and all that stuff are valid, they all have been answered very well by the team. We saw the website, buildthestadium.com, and even before that, the team. I sat at council meetings for countless hours, and I saw Colby right there. And I mean, this was a well thought deal. This is not something that just came about. And again, this deal was approved last year, so it's time to go ahead and build that stadium, and it's time to go ahead and watch some soccer at a soccer-specific stadium. Thanks for taking my call.
Blair, thank you very much.
I think the caller said it best. Thank you for your call. And even the mayor himself said during campaign, I think actually on this set here, that this was finished business. And so I agree with the mayor, and I really hope that it is finished business, and we'll be getting to demolition and the stadium construction here.
And I know from the Fairgrounds Board point of view, you all just want those buildings torn down, the old ones.
That's the first thing we want. We've also been living in terms of a construction zone, so to speak, for a very long time. So we're just ready to see the ball move forward and ready to see actual progress, because the sooner that starts, the sooner it's over. Yeah,
absolutely. Okay, I'm trying to get through as many calls as we can. I think we lost a few people. David, you're up. Thank you for your call tonight. What's your question?
Is that me?
Yes, go ahead.
40 years ago, we played soccer here in Nashville. 35 years ago, we played soccer here in Nashville. 30 years ago, we played soccer here in Nashville. I have watched every World Cup game that was played since 1970. There were no people who know about soccer or love soccer more than us. Problem is, you do not make an agreement in the dark when people are sleeping. And then come and tell them when they wake up. The issue here are so many. You cannot go to Edwin Warner Park and build condos, and then build a sporting facility. You cannot go to Hadley Park and build condos and build a sporting facility. Then the issue here is that where we played soccer 20 years ago is still there. And also you have that there were issues that were not discussed. When the soccer, how was this soccer thing announced? It was announced in a pulpit, say there will be soccer here.
David,
prior to that announcement, nothing was done to even bring people in. We went there and told them, say, look, after that announcement, I said, look, where is this consultation about? Where was the discussion made?
All right, David, we're going to have to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll discuss some of that. Stay with us.